Welcome. GOP presidential candidate Newt Gingrich said during his campaign he would support increasing control over federal judges or restraining their judicial independence. My guest is retired Superior Court Judge in California, Eugene M. Hyman. Judge Hyman, welcome back.
Thank you.
Judge Hyman, what you're talking about here, elected judges often find themselves between a rock and a hard place. Can you explain that?
Well, I think in terms of a broader concept, in terms of the presidential election, one candidate for the Republican nomination indicated that if he were unhappy with a federal judge's ruling, then that judge would be called before Congress and have to explain him or herself, and if they refused to come, then he would send the U.S. Marshals after them. That's a pretty scary concept because there needs to be a recognition that the courts are the third branch of government. You have Congress made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate, then you have the President, and then you have the courts, and each are co-equal branches of government, and each have their place and each have their function. If you have a system such that what was being proposed, then in essence you would be placing pressure on judges to render decisions that the majority in power wanted, and if you didn't render those decisions, then you subject yourself to removal or to being hauled before Congress. That plays out at a state level in many states because of judicial elections. And there's two kinds of elections that are held in states. One is a retention type election, which in California is limited to the appellate courts, meaning the Court of Appeal and the state Supreme Court, where individuals face election every 14 years, shall so-and-so be retained for the period prescribed by law. And then you have trial court judges that face the potential of a contested election every 6 years. And different states do it different ways. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that every state has judicial elections, just that at least half of them do. And what this does has a chilling effect on judges in terms of doing their daily jobs, because every judge wants to be supported by the county prosecutor should he or she face an election. And here the representative of the county prosecutor is in front of you if you have a criminal assignment on a daily basis. And if you render a decision that that authority is unhappy about, and if you face a contested election, then you may not get that support. Your opponent might, in which case you might be out of a job. In which case it's not good for anyone. Judges need to be independent. Judges need to have the ability to render decisions that they think are appropriate given all of the facts that are presented to them. I certainly recognize that judges can't get it right 100%. I would be disingenuous if I said that I was never reversed, because I have been. But that is not, in my opinion, the reason for having judicial elections is to strike the fear in judges that if they don't do what the majority in power wants them to do, that they're going to lose their job. There's ample examples throughout the United States at the state court level of judges who were doing their jobs and ultimately lost their seats. Because of rendering what were considered to be unpopular decisions. Just recently in Iowa, 3 justices lost their seat in a retention election when they voted to uphold same-sex marriage. There have been judges in Washington State that were voted out of office, and they actually have, in Washington State, you can actually run against a Supreme Court justice there. And in California, during the Rose Byrd era, she and 2 other colleagues were voted out of office because of the reversal rate of death penalty cases. You know, judges are there to make hard decisions, and they should not have to face these additional kinds of pressures by the electorate in terms of making their decisions.
So you would be in favor then of lifetime appointments?
Absolutely, and maybe a better, less political process for the appointment of judges and justices. because right now in the federal system as well as at the state system, there's a lot of politics involved in the selection process. And what a lot of other countries do that they tell me is much less political is that they have selection committees that vet people in terms of their qualifications, and that's how they're selected, as compared to now where the party in power by the governor, Governor Brown now in California, who's a Democrat, is going to appoint mostly Democrats as judges, and his predecessor would appoint mostly Republicans, although Governor Schwarzenegger was a very unusual judge in the sense that he appointed people without much consideration for party. He appointed a lot of independents and a lot of Democrats, more so than any other any other governor has ever done. And it'll remain to be seen in terms of whether Governor Brown will follow that suit.
All right, Judge Hyman, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Family Law Channel on the Legal Broadcast Network.